You're listening to the Travis Makes Money podcast presented by GoHighLevel.com. For a free 30-day trial of the best all-in-one digital marketing software tool on the planet, just go to GoHighLevel.com/Travis. What's going on, money makers? Welcome back to the Travis Makes Money podcast, where it's our mission to help you make more money. If you're new to the show, we release brand new conversations with unconventional money makers 7 days a week. So if you haven't yet, please be sure to go to your podcast app of choice, hit that subscribe or follow button so you never miss an opportunity to learn how to make some more money. Today on the show, we're talking about some fun stuff. We're talking about some travel and travel hacking with my new friend, Julia Menez. Julia has her own entire media channels dedicated completely to helping people skip the line when it comes to travel hacking, as well as, what are some ways that airlines are taking advantage of you, and what are some ways that you can bank some more points? What are some ways that you can fly for free, maybe stay places for free, get all the perks that you should be getting? Look, a lot of you guys listening to this, you're entrepreneurs. You're already making some money. You have to travel. It's part of your job. So why not just put in a little bit of a strategy and do a lot of this stuff for free, or just make the experience better for some upgrades or something like that. So, Julia, what's up? Welcome to the show.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, ma'am. Well, let's go ahead and start off the money conversation here, Julia, with a quick question for you. Tell me about the first way you ever made $1.
Ooh, definitely under the table. Just like doing like odd jobs for family members or something like that.
Yeah.
But my first job that I got a paycheck for, I was a receptionist at a hair salon for about 6 weeks. I hated it. And
Nice.
then I was a rock climbing instructor for a few years. So that was my high school job. Was I was like a lifeguard, but instead of at the pool, at a climbing gym.
Okay. Nice. So always kind of working then if you had a job in high school.
Yes. And
Was
then
was that a family thing? Did they push you to do that?
no, I really just wanted a little bit more side money, but more so climbing was expensive and the
Uh,
membership to the gym that I wanted to go to was pretty expensive, or it felt like that at the time. So my parents were
so
like, we can't afford you to climb all the time. So I'm like, well, if I just work there, I get to climb for free. So I did that.
so you were already hacking the system at
Oh
that
yeah.
age. Yeah. I mean, that's a form of travel hacking right there. You know what I mean? Okay. So most recent way that you made $1, what do you do now?
So now I run GeoBreeze Travel and we make money in a couple of different ways. We help business owners and high cash flow professionals to leverage their everyday expenses to earn points and miles, and then we help them to maximize those points for luxury travel. We have a suite of different products for people who are looking for one-on-one help or course materials and personalized tutorials how to make the most out of your credit card points and frequent flyer miles. So that's what I do now. And right before that, I was an actuary for about 9 years, where I was doing deep math and different statistical modeling and risk
Okay.
management analysis. So
It,
transition from that to doing this full time.
is that what you went to school for?
Yes, I majored in actuarial science.
In actuarial science.
Yeah.
Man, every once in a while, Julia, I talk to somebody on the show and I go, "Oh yeah, that's why I'm a podcaster." It's like, actuarial science sounds like something that you actually have to pay attention to and be good at in order to make a living in, which is what you did. But also, is that what turned you on to the idea of doing this particular business model?
A little bit. So, in the world of actuarial science, you have to go through all of these different exams to get credentialed. Um, I think it was about 8 exams when I was doing it, and now I think they have to go through even more. So that just takes up the entirety of your life from
No
ages
kidding.
19 to 23. I think I was just doing exams all the time. But then one day I was done and I looked at my husband and said, well, now we can hang out all the time. And he wasn't about that. He was like, no, I like having a lot of video game time while you were doing a lot of studying. So you should read these personal finance blogs. I think they'll keep you entertained while I still have some video game time.
Hilarious.
He didn't realize how deep I would go into the world of personal finance blogs. And from there, that's kind of the tangent where I learned around where I learned about points and miles and got into the points and miles hobby from there around 2017, purely just as a hobby to keep me occupied since I wasn't dedicating hundreds of hours every month to actuarial exams.
That's hilarious. So it was kind of like your husband was just like, "Hey, maybe, maybe I can distract you with this personal finance blog stuff, so I can play some Call of Duty at night."
And then it ended up monetized.
And then it became a full time gig. Yeah. What does your husband do?
He is a software engineer.
Okay, got it, got it. So a little bit different than the entrepreneurial hustle, but I mean nowadays though that can be kind of a work from anywhere virtual type thing anyway. So were you guys constantly traveling before when you were doing when you were when this was a hobby? Was that kind of the goal? Just like, oh, that'd be cool if I could learn how to take this vacation to Hawaii for free or for way less than what most people would do it for. Was that the original intent behind the hobby?
Yeah, it was really just let's see if we can get a free or nearly vacation every year. Business class wasn't even on our radar. We were in our mid 20s at that point. And so I know that nowadays TikTok makes it seem like everybody who's 25 is constantly traveling to
Yeah.
Ibiza
And they're
and
flying private. Yeah.
all the time. We were not like that. We were like, well, maybe we can get $800 off in Bali, or maybe we can fly to Switzerland for free or something like that. So that was really all we had set out to do in the beginning. And it was mostly just hey, this seems fun. Maybe it'll keep me occupied and I can use my brain cells for this instead of debauchery or whatever else people use their brain cells
Netflix.
for.
Yeah. Tell me about your opinion on this whole credit card thing, because in personal finance blogs, personal finance podcasts, personal finance content information, wherever, however you consume it, there tends to be sides on this. Like there tends to be like a pretty hard line drawn in the sand, mostly by Ramsey and company, who, and I've had multiple of those personalities on the podcast as well, and we talked a little bit about it. But obviously, you found utility in having credit cards, where, as you know, their material would say, don't have a credit card, don't even worry about your credit score, pay everything in cash. Points, don't worry about points. That's a dumb game to play. And you're obviously on the other side of that. So where did that along the journey? Was there ever a time where you were thinking about eliminating credit cards, or were you always looking at like, well, there's so many points here. Why would I do this?
I didn't look at it from I should eliminate this, but I also wasn't like, we should do it for the points. With credit cards, it's just a lot more secure than using a debit card. If you are paying with a debit card and your debit card gets stolen, they can drain your bank account. And it is very, very difficult to get that money back. If my Amex card gets stolen, I can just report it to Amex. And especially if it's within 30 days, I'm not really as liable for a lot of those fraudulent charges. It's just so much easier to deal with the security issues with credit cards versus debit cards. But also, to the credit of everybody who is into the cash envelope system and everything, we have to keep in mind that even though it seems like everybody is talking about points and miles and that it's permeating everywhere and everybody is traveling for free like this, the internet is an illusion. And what's actually happening is most people just don't have the financial discipline to handle this. Most people are carrying a balance on their credit cards from month to month. And if you're the kind of person who has to carry a balance because you're not in a position to pay off everything in full, don't play this game. Just like
Yes.
log off right now. Because the high rewards credit cards that we use to play the game of points and miles, with high rewards come really, really high risks and interest rates.
Yeah.
And those interest rates are the highest on the market. We're talking more than 20% APR for a lot of these cards, which if you're paying off your credit card in full every month, it just doesn't matter because you're not paying interest. But if you have to carry a balance, any interest that you have to pay is going to negate the value that you're getting out of your points. So I try to tell that to all beginners. I have it in our free course. It's in like module 0 of our free course of, hey, if you run into any of these problems, don't continue. Like,
Forget it. Yeah.
yeah, deal with your credit first. Make sure you're in a place where you can pay off everything in full so that you can take full advantage of the game. Put real money before points money.
Yes.
But unfortunately, so many people just don't listen and they're like, yeah, but I really want to fly business class. So I'm going to open this new credit card that I heard a whole bunch of influencers talk about. And then I'm going to redeem the points. And yeah, we're like buying things we don't need to buy just to meet minimum spends.
Right,
We,
right.
yeah, there's so many problems.
That's like the biggest point, because I had this conversation with George Camel on the show, and that's what I kind of that was like the one piece of the equation that I'm willing to secede on, is that I'm not going to give up my credit cards and my credit card points, but I've also worked to be extremely disciplined when it comes to what I spend money on those cards and what I allow myself to spend money on. And I can definitely see he pulled out some statistic, and maybe you know what it is, but people were likely to spend like 18% more on average when using credit lines rather than a debit card, when you're using other people's money really to make the transactions happen. And then people start playing that game, which is the one that you just mentioned. Well, I open this card and there's a $3,000 minimum spend to get the welcome bonus, and then they go out and spend $1,600 on frivolous nonsense that they don't need to meet the $3,000 requirement to get the $500 welcome bonus. I was like, well, why didn't you just spend the $500 on the travel? I don't. You would have saved yourself $1,100 by doing that. So that's the one. Obviously, banks have massive skyscrapers in Manhattan for a reason, and it's not because everybody's gaming the system and winning. You know what I mean? It's because a lot of people think that they are, and ultimately they're actually losing.
Yes. I don't know the exact figure that you referenced. 18% sounds about correct. People do spend more when they have credit cards because they don't see the money physically leaving their wallet. So, who should actually be doing points and miles? If you already have high cash flow and you can support it because of your high income, because you have a business,
Yeah.
those people are great to do points and miles because first of all, if you have business expenses, please don't run them off a debit card. It's bad enough if it gets stolen from your personal bank account, but imagine like a business run on credit card. I don't know how the Ramseys do this, but
Yeah, yeah.
if their debit card gets hacked, that is a
That's a
world of
problem.
hurt.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's a big problem. And yeah, I was going to say high cash flow, but also high expenses, or at least predictable recurring expenses. To me, like that's where the majority of my credit card spend is. It's like, look, I have to spend this money regardless. I'm going to have to whatever subscribe to this software. I'm gonna have to pay my virtual assistant. I'm gonna have, like, if there's a way that there's a recurring expense that I can take that and put it on a credit card because it's money that I'm going to spend anyway. That's the highest leverage thing to me. Talk to me about the best solution. Like, is there a not necessarily one size fits all solution when it comes to getting credit cards, but are there certain cards that you typically find yourself recommending more often than other cards?
Depends what you want to optimize for. For a lot of business owners, I recommend optimizing for simplicity rather than the complexity that can be the world of points and miles, where you move points over here and then you have 15 different cards that you're juggling. That game is for people who have to be meeting sign up bonuses all the time, or else they can't get any points. If you're in a place where you already have high predictable expenses, the risk of messing up switching in and out with different cards, that's probably worth more than what the points will actually get you. So oftentimes I'm telling people aim for simplicity, analyze what it is that you spend a lot of money on. If it's just miscellaneous stuff like inventory, like you have a restaurant or a shop or something, Capital One Venture X for Business, I tend to recommend to a lot of people just because it gets a flat 2 points per dollar everywhere. And those points are pretty useful. If you're in e-com and you do a lot of shipping, you do a lot of ads to sell your product, Chase Inc. Business Preferred is pretty good because it gets 3x on shipping. If you do a lot of ads for like a digital business, or if you do a lot of restaurant spend, I like the Amex Business Gold because that gets 4 points per dollar on your top two categories from a list of different available categories every month. If you're paying for a lot of your own travel, where maybe you have to fly a lot to different speaking gigs or something, Amex Business Platinum is good because it gets 5 points per dollar on flights. So it really depends on what are the main expenses for your business or your personal expenses, and
Yeah.
then seeing if there's a card that has a good bonus category multiplier for those particular expenses.
Yeah, and the lifestyle piece too, like you said, if you're traveling all the time, I swear by airport lounges. It's such a better experience in my experience, to be able to get through the security checks with pre-check and clear, breeze through security, and then I can actually pull up my laptop in a quiet place with good Wi-Fi, free drinks, free food, and good quality food and good quality drinks too. It's typically anyway. It's like usually if you're in an airport, it's like the options at the food court is like Burger King and Jersey Mike's or something like that. But then I go into the Centurion Lounge and it's a whole spread of actually nutritious, healthy, good food that I can get good nutrition again for free. And I know it's not technically for free because the MX Business Platinum is like whatever $600 annual fee or something like that, which is again why you have to be clear about what your goals are, because if you're not traveling that much, it might not make sense to have a $600 annual fee on a card that you're never going to get the use out of. You know what I mean? But if I'm traveling and my wife is with me and we're getting free food and drinks at the airport, and then we're getting a free upgrade to first class and we get free food and drinks on the flight, it's like, well, all that money I would have had to eat that day regardless. You know what I mean? Like I would have had to spend money in the airport. And if you go to a decent restaurant in the airport that has better options than a Burger King burger or French fries or something like that, then you're going to be spending a lot of money at the airport. I was at the airport the other day, Julia. I got three items, and I'm gonna see if you can guess how much this costs. Okay, I got a book. I got a Monster Energy drink, and I got a little like airplane toy for my son that I was going to come back on. So those three items at the airport. Guess how much that purchase was?
I'm gonna guess the book was like $15 to $20. So we'll just round up for each of these. $20 for the book, $8 for the Monster Energy. How big was the toy?
It was about this big. It was like just like a little miniature airplane.
Was it a hard toy, soft toy?
Hard toy.
I'll say like $15 for that. So I don't know, like $42.
That's a pretty good guess. It was $53.
Which one was I off on?
Uh, the book probably, because you were right on the monster. The monster was like, because I checked out at a different place for the monster, because the place I did bought the book and the toy didn't have a monster, so I went to another place, bought a monster. It was just the one thing, and when I when I checked out, and he was like, that'll be like $7.98. I was like, what? for a single monster? Like this is like $2.99 at the gas station down the street, which is already at retail. It's just the airports can get ridiculous. But yeah, I think the book was maybe closer to $30 or something like that. But yeah, either way, it was insane to sit there and be like, man, if I didn't have these types of things, I would be spending over $1,000 a year just in food and drinks when I'm traveling to stay hydrated and to eat food that I have to buy. So it was like, man, well, why would I just don't understand why I would give this up. And then, like I said, I had a United credit card with a bunch of points on it, gave me immediate status with that airline, and they bumped me to first class on that particular trip. So it was like, oh, free food and drinks on the flight as well. That prevented me from spending money when I got home on dinner. You know what I mean? So it was like, I can't imagine that like giving these things up would be better for me than it would be another way. And I think some of it is some people just kind of like they've drawn the line in the sand, so they feel like they just have to keep preaching that message. But I can't get on board for it. You know what I mean?
It is really important to do a cost benefit analysis because, like you mentioned, some people could just be full Team Ramsey and they're just like, I travel every other week, but credit cards are evil. Okay, there's that. There's also the other end of the spectrum where maybe somebody saw one person on Instagram who's like, Capital One Venture X, like, it's the way to go. And this family takes one vacation a year, and their home airport doesn't even have a lounge. And
Yeah.
they're like, I should get this credit card because then I'll get to travel in style. And then suddenly they're upset that there's no direct flights from Emirates business class operating from Oklahoma City to Phuket, Thailand. And they're like, how come I am not able to recreate what I saw on Instagram? It is more complex than what it looks like in a 30-second reel. So if I had to tell anybody just key messages from this podcast, the internet is an illusion. It's much more nuanced and complicated than what you see on those little videos.
Yeah.
And also put real money before fake money, which is points.
Yeah, I'm always curious about some of the people that are doing this stuff constantly because I'm just like, okay, sure, you have 3 million credit card points, but how much debt are you in? Like you don't have that, like there's not a business on the back end of this. Like you're just opening up new LLCs and taking out new business credit cards and then maybe just forgetting the balance or just balance transferring somewhere else. Like this is not play money. This is not monopoly money. This is real. Like you have to pay this money off. And if unless you're just an unethical person who figures out ways to file bankruptcy and pseudonyms in other countries or something like that, then like this debt is going to come due at some point.
Or even if it's not debt where you are, there are methods where people will just like buy and sell things where you buy a whole bunch of thing on Ross Dress for less, you sell it on eBay. And so you're earning those credit card points. And technically, like maybe you're selling enough on eBay to pay off your credit card bills. But also, like if you're putting that much energy into earning credit card points, this might sound insane. You could apply that same energy to start a legitimate business
Yeah.
with cash flows,
Yeah.
even if it's just a side gig. And with that, you could maybe earn real money, scale it up. As your business scales up, you'll also earn more credit card points. That's another option as well. I know a lot of people are like, I don't want to do all the business paperwork. I'm okay with just buying and reselling, flipping furniture, doing stuff on Facebook Marketplace. That's totally cool too. But I've just seen so many people spend so much energy where I'm like, if you had applied this to get promoted at work, you could be making $30,000 more per year and then inflate your lifestyle just enough to where you're earning more credit card points organically without having to do so many mental and financial gymnastics.
Yes, very well said. Yeah, it's the sheer volume of effort and energy that's being put into, well, I can get some extra credit card points. It's like, yeah, but at the end of the day, it's still credit card points. Wouldn't it not make sense, like, just to go earn some money, like get some cash in the bank? You can do some things with cash too. Like cash is significantly more valuable than the credit card points at the end of the day. What are some things that you see people doing that you would look at and be like, that is objectively maybe like morally wrong, ethically questionable, and I would stay away from these types of practices if people are telling you to do this?
Before we get into that, I do want to circle back to where you said cash is more valuable than credit card points. And that one's very variable for people because sometimes you'll see people like on my YouTube videos where I'll be like, well, I got 10 cents per point or something. We're redeeming for these very high value things. And so many people are like, well, I would never spend $20,000 to fly my family to France in business class, but with credit card points, we can do this. So obviously, I'm not saying stay away from credit card points. This is how we make our living. This is our entire business. But there is a balance. And I always want to tell people, did you do the cost benefit analysis of how much was it worth it to go this far into the game versus allocating some of your mental energy towards setting up a retirement fund or investments or something else? Because you don't have to be all in with one facet of personal finance. It actually really does help to be a little bit more well-rounded. But as far as, oh, unethical things. So I I like the quote, don't attribute to malice what can be attributed to incompetence or something like that. And I think that is much more so the case. I don't think that people go out there trying to scam each other at every turn, even though with the level of distrust that we see on the internet, that happens. But I don't think it happens as much as people think that it happens. Not everyone is out to scam you, but there are a lot of people who just don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Um, where it's just like, is it a scam or do they just not have their website properly set up? Is it a scam or do they just suck at customer service? Um, and I think the two get conflated a lot. But in the world of points and miles, we have so many people who jump on sales calls with me where they're like, I need to learn how to commit low-key financial crimes so I can earn more points. And I'm like, I kid you not, Travis, they do this. And I'm like, why do you need to learn how to commit these low-key financial crimes? And they're like, so I can go wherever I want, whenever I want. And I'm like, okay, where do you want to go? If if hypothetically I teach you all these, and they're like, well, I don't know yet, but I just want to have enough points for when it happens. So they don't even know where they want to go. They just heard somebody once upon a time committed crimes and they think it sounds cool and that it's easy. And if anybody's ever watched a single heist movie, like not even debating the ethics of all of this, like all of those heists have a plan. And I just honestly don't think a lot of people
Do
are
yeah.
they haven't planned.
Right.
I'm I sit on sales calls with people where I'm just like, oh man, if I were putting together a team for Ocean's 11, I wouldn't pick you. Uh,
Right.
like I'm not going to debate the ethical considerations of like, okay, where is it like over the line versus under the line? I just, if anything, I can convince, if anything, I think I can convince more people to not get themselves into trouble just by saying like, that's more work than you think it's going to be.
Yeah.
And I hope that's enough to just deter people
You're
instead
taking a
of saying
massive
like,
risk for not even a defined reward.
for sure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
I heard
don't think I
this.
can steer people by being like, well, I don't think like you should ethically or morally do this. Who am I to say?
Yeah.
I don't think I'm actually going to reach anybody by doing that. But I think I can reach a lot of people from getting themselves into trouble by being like, it's more difficult than you think to do low key financial crimes or high key financial crimes. Um, so I'll just impart
Yeah,
that pearl of
it just
wisdom.
seems, it's like you said, it seems like a wild assumption that you could just commit some crimes real quick just to what, have lower expense travel. I don't like, you think that's going to make you
Some
sleep better at night? It doesn't make
some
any
people
sense.
sell the points because it's like tax-free income if you can just like generate a whole bunch of points and then sell them on the black market. That's a whole nother
Hmm.
thing. But it's never as easy as people think. The credit card companies have huge fraud departments. So don't go into the world of points and miles trying to commit fraud. Don't go into anything. Just
Yeah,
don't commit
probably.
fraud. Just
Yeah,
don't
probably
commit
don't
fraud.
go into anything like that with the idea to commit fraud. Or yeah, don't commit fraud is probably a pretty good, just overarching blanket piece of advice there.
There are so many people who reach out to me being like, "Hey, can I just like start a fake business and then buy a credit card machine and then just like swipe my credit card through to earn more points?" And I'm like, "So that's fraud.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Don't do that."
Right. Exactly. This one, I remember hearing about this one hustle these guys were running where they would buy things on Amazon and then claim that they had a defect, and then Amazon would refund their money, and then they would sell it brand new to somebody else. So they were racking up credit card points, buying things, and then they were selling them for the full price because they were brand new, unopened items that were not defective. But then they would get the refund from Amazon, and I was just like, yeah, that's called theft. Like that's fraud. That is something that you can go to prison for. So I don't care how much money they're making. I will not be a part of any of that, nor will I entertain putting my family in a position that's like that just to make some extra cash, especially when there are so many opportunities to create legitimate value and have actual business income from, bringing value to the marketplace.
Do you know if anything's happened to them?
I don't know.
What I would venture to guess is Amazon or some of those other sellers, the merchants probably know about it and they're waiting until they rack up enough of it to where it's not a misdemeanor charge.
Mm.
So if you're like, oh, I did it like a couple times and looks like I got away with it, we should scale up the fraud. I am not a lawyer, definitely not legal advice. I am not any type of religious leader, so not moral, ethical, or any kind of advice like that. But I have heard of people where they did some kind of those like hacky hack sneaky plays, thinking they were super cool and getting away with it. And credit card companies were just waiting until they reached the felony level
Mm.
before saying anything about it.
Yeah. Well, and to, those credit card companies credit, it's no pun intended there. It's probably because like they don't have the time to worry about a couple people doing a couple things. But then once it scales up to this operation that's just actively stealing money, they're just stacking evidence and waiting for you to do one more stupid thing, and then everything comes crumbling down, and now you have to go to prison and file bankruptcy and ruin your reputation. So it's like, what? I don't understand. I guess I just don't understand the mindset.
We've heard a lot of horror stories. Okay, so the mindset is oh, it's super easy and it's very hard to get ahead in real business or like to work with a man or to get a real job or to do anything that's legit. So the only ways to make money is in illegitimate ways, which if that is your outlook on the world, I don't agree with it. But there are a lot of people who have that outlook in life that the cards are stacked against you. So you have to stack it against the bank however you can. I instead encourage people to understand here are the rules of the game. And even though we call it travel hacking in some circles, learning to use the loyalty programs as they were meant to be used does not make the credit card companies unhappy. Redeeming your points for a business class flight, they're super happy about that. Or they're at least neutral about it. Don't commit fraud. Like that's the only thing I can say about that is don't commit fraud because I've heard so many horror stories from the hallways in different conferences where people literally sit there and have a little group therapy session about the anxiety levels that they have of if they get caught and what it does to someone when you've like let's say you get away with it for a long time. You've got millions of points banked up. And that's when the credit card company decides to shut down your accounts because they realized you were doing some stuff they didn't want you to do. That would suck. Other things that would suck is if you get into a whole bunch of schemes that are almost like Ponzi schemes where you're buying like fake products and then trying to resell them. And then we call it the float, where let's say you've charged $30,000 on your credit card. I hope you have $30,000 to pay that off, just in case the money coming in is a little bit late. Worst case scenario, you don't have that, and then you have to, and you're on the line for it, and you have to do a whole bunch of interest payments on top of that.
Right.
I've heard of people floating so much more than they could afford to float. We're talking hundreds of thousands, like multiples of their annual salary.
Oh my gosh.
And I don't know how somebody tells their spouse, like, hey, I did some credit card games. We don't have a house.
Yeah. And I lost. Yeah. Yeah, that's wild. Don't do this stuff, people. This is again why I can understand the Ramsey crowd just being like, don't even touch it. Stay away from it because a lot of people don't have the discipline or wherewithal to just play the game the way that it's meant to be played with a slight advantage. That's the only thing is just optimize for what you're doing, your lifestyle, your expenses. What if you travel a lot, if you don't travel a lot, what can you use to play the game the way that it's supposed to be played with just a little bit of a slight edge. And if you're listening to me right now, at GeoBreeze Travel is Julia's Instagram. Super easy follow. I recommend everybody go give her a follow, especially on Instagram. I know she has her podcast and she's putting out content in a lot of other different places. But her Instagram is just it's super easy to follow because all she does is post really helpful tips and tricks. She's one of those accounts that I have like so many saved posts from that I send over to my assistant and stuff like that because I want to take advantage of some of these things. But again, doing it in the correct way instead of the incorrect way that does not get me in trouble, but just allows me to leverage these things to my advantage a little bit more and get some of those first class upgrades or get some of those, corner room suite upgrades or things like that without having to pay a lot of money for it. So, Julia, thanks so much for doing this. Besides the Instagram account, where can people go to get more from you?
We also provide a lot of free tutorials, step-by-step tutorials on YouTube. So if you want to dive a little bit deeper on how to navigate the different airline websites and the transfer bonuses and how to find these deals on your own, check out GeoBreeze Travel on YouTube and you will find a plethora of free tutorials there as well.
Love it. Thank you so much, Julia, for doing this. I know you're in Vegas, so maybe we should have an Everbowl sometime. Come over to our acai bowl shop, and I'll hook it up. Get some acai bowls, some smoothies, and hang out and chat for a second there. Everybody listening, tuning in, remember, money only solves your money problems, but it's a little bit easier to solve the rest of your problems with some money in the bank. So let's solve that problem first here on the Travis Makes Money podcast. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Catch you next time. Peace out.